Good afternoon and welcome to Tensure Consulting's January LinkedIn Live. I'm Jason Sattler, the Director of Operations at Tensure Consulting, and today we're going to be talking about the right e-commerce platform and how it can help you with your supply chain issues. So I've been working in the e-commerce industry for probably about 10 to 15 years, doing large-scale implementations. And we're joined today by David Crow from Ultra Commerce. David, thank you for being here.
Well, thanks, Jay. Happy to be here. I'm David Crow, as Jay mentioned. I'm the Chief Customer Officer for Ultra Commerce. About 25 years of e-commerce and supply chain experience working with several of the leading platform providers, as well, in addition to Ultra Commerce, who are ones as well, but also working with some of the largest retailers and online sellers, helping them execute fulfillment strategies. But it's a pleasure to be here, Jay. It's a very timely subject and should be a lively conversation.
Absolutely. So let's jump right into it. Given the supply chain crisis that we're experiencing today in this country, how can an e-commerce platform make a difference?
Well, I think from an e-commerce perspective, right, there's some strategies and some thoughts and ideas on how to better communicate with your customers to allow them to make intelligent and informed decisions at point of purchase. And so when you think about that from an e-commerce perspective, it really requires either some heady integration or some platform breadth that's going to give you additional capabilities. Because when you think about the first and most important feature is at the point of purchase, can you give your customer accurate and timely information around product availability, around delivery time frames, expected lead times, and how long it's going to take to give them? Can you give them accurate information around their buying options or fulfillment options, whether they can pick that up at your facility, whether you can pick it up in the store or ship from store in a B2B context? Can they send their trucks to pick it up at your distribution center? And it all comes down to, do I have the ability to convey to my customer the product that's available to promise to them and available to commit? You know, when you think about what's really going on today and the impacts and the delays around lead times for our international shipping or congestion in the ports and products sitting on containers, it really comes down to making sure your customer really understands the implications of making a purchase and when they'll get the product. We were in conversations in the last month with a company, custom furniture manufacturer, who sources most of their product from Asia Pac. And what would traditionally be an 8 to 10 week lead time for manufacturing of some custom furniture, now they're seeing lead times of as long as 18 to 20, 24 months even. And so imagine the customer's experience of checking out, going through a purchase decision and buying $1,000 or tens of thousands of dollars worth of furniture, custom, expecting to get it, in a quarter. And then knowing after the point of purchase, when you several days later get an email that says, well, your product won't be available until late calendar 2023. And what they're actually experiencing is about a 90% cancellation rate on those orders because the customer was expecting to get something in 10 to 12 weeks, and now they're looking at getting something in 18 to 24 months. And so, if they had the ability, or what they're working through now with us is to produce the ability or on their site to be able to inform the customer of how long those lead times are going to be, to have accurate shipping costs, accurate transportation times. And so the customer can see at point of purchase the difference between this is what the manufacturing time is going to be, this is what the prep time is going to be, this is what the logistics and transportation time, here's how long it's going to take to clear customs in some cases, right? So the customer can make an informed decision. Now, will that eliminate the 90% cancellation on their orders? No, it probably won't, but it will give the customer the ability to make an informed decision at the point of purchase that says, am I willing to wait the projected amount of time to get the goods or services? And so, point number one would be, can I provide the customer with the most accurate information that I have at my disposal from an informed decision? Now, when
I was just going to say, I would imagine not just the loss of sales, but the impact to the brand, because those people are going to be very unhappy. They're going to feel like they got bait and switched, and that can't be good for the brand.
It isn't, right? And let's be honest, even in a B2B context where people don't generally put product availability or inventory amounts on the site, you still have to have that ability to make a promise at the point of purchase and inform the customer of what the expectation should be around lead time. Now, from an e-commerce perspective, right, with your platform today, that's going to require some significant integrations, right? Because if you think about doing third-party drop ship or third-party fulfillment or fulfilling from your stores, then you need to have aggregated inventory and availability information from your suppliers, from your drop shippers, from potentially a 1 or 3PL who's doing fulfillment from you, from your multiple distribution centers. In the case of B2B, or I'm doing build to order, custom manufactured products, I need to have accurate manufacturing lead times, which means I have to have visibility into the inbound supply chain challenges that may impact my manufacturing. And all of that requires some significant either integrations into those systems that have that inventory information, or that my e-commerce system has order management built into it that's going to allow me to aggregate that information myself so that I can present that in the shopping cart or on the website, on the product listing pages or product detail pages, that the product's available. Here's when it's available to ship, and here's how long we project based on tracking and watching the lanes that we ship through, how long it will take for me to get the good from my point of origin to your destination, your shipping location. And that's step one of a critical process.
I would think for B2B, that would be even more important. My brother works in transportation, and he's told me stories about entire factories shutting down because one truck didn't show up with the right parts.
Well, yeah, and that's critical, right? That's expensive not only for the manufacturer whose line is shut down, but in many cases, those suppliers may bear the brunt if they're the ones whose product didn't show up to shut the lane down. That gets into point two, and that is, if the customer's already made the purchase, now how do I provide them as accurate as possible information around logistics and tracking information so that they know, where is my product, where is it potentially held up, where is it bottlenecked? And that could be something in a just-in-time delivery automotive example where parts are delivered and sourced right out of the truck into the automobile. The risks are phenomenal, hundreds of thousands of dollars a minute for shutting the line down. And so I need visibility into not only where's the truck, but what are the things that could be impacting it, whether that's weather related or traffic related, that might force me to make some alternative decisions and expedite another shipment to keep from shutting the plant down. But take that a step back farther, where the lead times are a little more generous and more friendly. Still knowing the transportation lead times from a B2B context that says, hey, we understand there's port congestion in Long Beach, which we all hear about every day, and these items could be there for an overextended period of time. Understanding that and understanding and communicating to your customer so that they can make an informed decision around the potential impacts to either their manufacturing operations or their commitments to their customers, and make some alternative decisions around, do I source this from another vendor? Do I source this from another location? Do I have you manufacture more goods and expedite those to me via air freight or via some other lane so I can get the product in time to meet my customer obligations? That's critical, right? And it does still require that I have visibility into what's going on in the entire supply chain from the point of purchase until the point of delivery to the customer. That what are the things that could impact this? Whether it's slow down in the port of Long Beach, whether that's we're gonna divert the ship to, instead of going into California, it's going to go into Florida, or we're going to put it on an air freight, or there impacts with trucking picks up, or whatever the delays are. You've got to have that visibility, and then you also have to have a willingness to be upfront and forthright with the customer around those impacts. So again, it all comes down to making that informed decision so that your customer knows both before purchase and post purchase that you're communicating with them actively and regularly. We were talking beforehand. I think it'd be interesting to share your example about your experience for the holiday gifts that we're going to run late.
Yeah, my Christmas gift, which showed up last week, I did get. I got informed from the manufacturer before Christmas that it was going to be late, so they were very proactive about that. And then they were proactive about keeping me informed the whole step of the way about when it was going to show up. And then it did finally show up on time. But it did. I'm very satisfied with that brand, and so I'm going to be, working with them again in the future because I was just so happy with the way they treated me and they kept me informed.
Mm-hmm. I had a similar experience recently with a product that was purchased online, and this is an extreme example, and I'm not advocating that everybody be this direct and forthright, but it was a product that I ordered. It was going to have about a 4-day lead time, and when it shipped, they automatically sent me tracking information and text messages around the shipment, and to the point of when it was out in the last mile for delivery or final mile. I could actually watch the truck on my iPhone with a little map that showed me, it was in a neighborhood 2 neighborhoods away. I was the next stop, the next package on the truck scheduled for delivery, and literally could watch the truck drive up my street and even up my driveway and know when to walk outside and put the dog away because, I was that informed. Now, that's an extreme example, but it also is a case of going above and beyond so that the customer, right, who purchased the good was well informed. Now, was a lot of that was enabled through the carrier, right? But it was also enabled through the e-commerce platform or the person that I purchased from, the vendor, so that on their site was the one sending me the text messages and the one sending me the links and sending me the information to connect to the carrier. And and that goes a long way to help reinforcing that commitment that they made at the point of purchase that the product would be available and I would have visibility into when I got it.
It all comes back to the commerce platform.
Mm-hmm.
It seems like it just all comes down to communication.
It does, right? It really comes down to don't overpromise, right? So that you underdeliver to set customer expectations. And it really comes down to making sure that the back end systems or parties, in the case of a third-party fulfillment, that you have accurate information, up-to-date information, that you're open and honest and willing to share that with your customers around product availability, around expected lead times, around the logistics bottlenecks that you're seeing in the supply chain and your ability to fulfill and deliver on the customer promise that you made at point of purchase. It becomes critical to maintaining that customer lifetime value. When you think about that in a B2B context, right, lead times can be more generous, but it's also a case where the goods and services that I'm fulfilling for my customer could impact and most certainly do impact their ability to meet a commitment to their customer. And so being open and honest and forthright in that context around my product availability, around my lead times, providing them alternatives or additional options are going to be key to making sure that we satisfy them in this crunch period where all of us are seeing impacts on the supply chain. Everything from extended lead times to produce plastic gallon jugs to bottle milk, right? To getting chips for the automotive cars or for cars or trucks where the cars are finished but they don't have chips. And so we all see this every day, right? It's one of the challenges that we face as e-commerce practitioners is fulfilling customer demand. But it really comes down to getting the information into my channels, whether that's into my retail stores or my kiosks, certainly my e-commerce platform, but also into my call center or my sales reps' hands, that I can put the information in front of my customer to allow them to make an informed decision, right? And to inform them of things that could impact my ability to fulfill and deliver.
Speaking of delivery, how about the potential for different delivery options?
Sure. Look, that's critical as well, especially from a omni-channel, even a B2B perspective. It's that sourcing and aggregating that inventory view of all your available channels, whether that's if I'm a brick and mortar retailer, do I have inventory at stores and what stores and where are they distributed from? Can I take advantage of some alternative fulfillment options, whether that's buy online, pick up in store, or ship from the store, or click and collect at the store, and making sure that the customer has every available option to them. One of the things I always like to tell folks is that having available inventory is great, but if I can't project that as available to sell to somebody who wants to make a purchase decision, whether that's in my store or online or with my call center, every place, and then letting them decide whether I want to wait 8 weeks to get this shipped from a store on the other side of the world, or whether I want to drive 50 miles to pick it up in a store, or whether I'd rather have you ship it from your store if you can. But availing all those options to the purchaser becomes critical in this time so that you can take best advantage of the inventory that you do have while we're waiting through the bottlenecks of replenishments, right?
Exactly. Communication and choice. So with our current supply chain issues, what's your thoughts on when late products finally do show up?
Oh, look, that's kind of the catch-22 for all of us right now. Is I'm sure you mentioned that you had Christmas goods that arrived late, but when you think about the seasonality of a lot of things that we buy and consume and purchase every day, whether that's from a business-to-business context or just from a retail perspective, is there's going to be a glut of product that show up it's not proper season, it's not proper timing, and it's not available. And so we're working with a lot of folks right now who are kind of trying to think ahead of that game, and their options that we may have. Many of us on our e-commerce platforms today may or may not have the ability to support it, but thinking about third-party marketplace strategies for disposing of out-of-season goods or discontinued or unusable options, right? Whether potentially standing up my own marketplace as part of my e-commerce platform to dispose of these goods, potentially direct to consumer, but even in a B2B context that says, I have some goods that I can't use. Where are some alternative channels or routes to market that I could make this available either in bulk or in individual units? Or thinking about, a different branded site that I'm going to take some of this out of season merchandise that's no longer, top of mind or available to sell, because of the seasonality or because of the dated age of the goods, and making those available on an alternative channel. Maybe it's another branded website that's not carrying my primary brand that I'm selling these as potentially seconds. But at some point in time, right, the supply chain disruptions are going to end, and then there are going to be people thinking about how do I dispose of all of this excess merchandise that shows up out of season, and what are some alternative ways to dispose of that, either via my e-commerce platform or a third-party marketplace, or through alternative channels to let somebody else maybe put it in their stores as a discounter, or maybe I can reverse auction some of these things. And those are strategies that we're really working with people on every day to try and help them figure that out in advance of a problem that they know is building up and pending.
I mean, I guess the whole Burton movie about Halloween at Christmas kind of comes to mind as you were talking about that. I was thinking about all the Halloween goods that at Christmas, and now Christmas goods that could be used at Valentine's Day.
That's
and,
right,
and
or
Easter.
Or knock on wood, hopefully Valentine's Day. There could be some of those things that don't start showing up until mid to late April. But we all hope that doesn't happen. But that's kind of the reality we're stuck with today. And eventually, the supply chain is going to smooth itself out. And thinking about it today, about what I'm going to do about that, to rationalize that within my supply chain, right? Warehouse space is expensive. And so what am I going to do with these goods if I don't have physical space to store them until somebody wants to buy them? And being able to dispose of them quickly is going to be kind of critical strategies that people should be thinking about right now.
So do most e-commerce platforms have the ability to deal with these integrations?
So I would say most e-commerce platforms today have the ability to project inventory information that's available to sell. But the problem is that how do you aggregate that information to get it into my e-commerce platform in the first place? A lot of folks are still fulfilling e-commerce directly from a direct-to-consumer or an e-commerce distribution center. And so it's fairly straightforward. I have a specific place I'm shipping from. Most can handle aggregated inventory if you're doing that for multiple facilities, but not generally tracking it by location. And so typically, either need some additions or enhancements to your e-commerce system, or we highly recommend folks look for an omni-channel order management system that's going to allow them to actually have accurate level information by location within the order management system, so that you can present that option through your e-commerce platform that says, here are the available choices for you to choose from, and I may choose to limit those back by geography or by zip code to some folks that are with, if it's a retail store or distribution center, to choose fulfillment points or pickup points at different places within my supply chain. But having accurate information, if I'm a global business, to where my inventory sits globally, or certainly domestically, if I've got a portfolio of distribution centers, both that are mine and 3PL, and having it down to individual locations, what actual inventory is on hand at each location, gives me the best chance of presenting to the customer all of the available options that make sense for them for point of purchase. I would tell you, as a consumer, there's certain times I've paid for expedite services for items that had to come across country because it was for sale and I could see the location it was, and I was willing to pay 24-hour expedited shipping to get it there. But in most cases, you'd see that same item, it would just show up, well, it's not in our e-commerce facility, or it's not in your zip code, so sorry, you can't have it, right? And so, given that the customer that choice is critical. And again, back to the integration piece of this, as I said, most e-commerce systems can't handle inventory by location, but they can handle an aggregated view of inventory. It's just a case of whether you put it all in there. So building those integrations are complex, but they have to come from somewhere. And typically that requires an order management system to aggregate that view of inventory by location across my supply chain, and then being able to make that available on my e-commerce engine. Now at Ultra Commerce, we actually have an order management system that's built into the platform itself that gives us the ability to present all kinds of location options. We could model your entire supply chain and show individual locations. You can restrict that down based on things that are most likely preferable or preferable to your customer, but it is critical that you be able to do that.
Outstanding. Well, I think we've really covered a lot of ground here today. So I would ask the folks that are out there watching, in the comments below, let us know, what are your thoughts? Is this consistent with what you're seeing? Do you have any other thoughts or ideas that you'd like to share with the community as a whole? Would definitely appreciate reading those as they show up. So I appreciate your time here today, Dave.
Well, Jay, happy to touch base with our friends at Tensure all the time, and so thanks for having me. This has been a pleasure.
Sure. Why don't we take just a quick minute, and why don't you tell us a little bit more about Ultra Commerce? I know you guys have been growing a lot
we'd
lately.
love to. We'll turn this into a little bit of a commercial. Ultra Commerce, we have what we believe is the most functionally rich and feature-rich e-commerce platform available today, because it's not just e-commerce, it's a full commerce platform. We have included out of the box for our simple subscription price, e-commerce, order management, marketplace capabilities, as well as product information management and content management. Customers can deploy this quickly using our CMS or doing it entirely headless, but it's all available out of the box for a single subscription that's based on the order volumes that we bill in arrears. And so we think it's easy to deploy, it's easy to consume, and it's very, very powerful and feature rich.
So it's a pay-as-you-go, pay-as-you-grow type of an approach?
Absolutely.
Outstanding. Okay, well, again, thank you for showing up here today, Dave.
Well, thanks for having me.
Been great. Thank you, everyone. And thank you for joining the Tensure January LinkedIn Live.